Hello, so this is a really important presentation. It's basically the basis of what makes some writing college level or not college level. And this is something people may struggle with, even if you did well in high school, because at the college level, it's just the requirements are a bit more elevated. So we're talking about thesis statements today. Let me tell you what this is about. It's just what a thesis statement is, how it will work in your writing, and how you can craft or refine one for your draft. Now, after teaching this for many, many years, I realized students just have a really hard time crafting thesis statements, especially people who feel that writing isn't interesting, or people have told me writing is so subjective. Why can't I get a good grade? So it's like, and one student said, well, I like math because there's a formula for everything. I said, okay, well, let me see if I can figure this out. And in fact, there is a formula that you can use for thesis statements. You don't have to use the formula that I've provided. However, you do need to have these elements of a thesis statement. So let me go ahead and just tell you the elements, and then I'll go back to this section here. So a thesis statement needs to have an observation, an opinion, and it needs to tell the significance, okay? Sorry, that was tough. So, for example, uh, why? Let me explain to you a little bit more. So, in college, you have to persuade your readers. They're sometimes called argumentative essays or persuasive essays. And you need to convince others that you have an interesting, logical, valid point of view. And you're trying to have people accept your point of view. You know that what persuasion is in your everyday life, and you guys are amazing at it. You know you're trying to convince other people of what you believe, and then you give reasons why. In academic writing, you're just asked to convince your reader of your position and have them accept it. And you need to write a sentence that encompasses this because it really serves as the roadmap for your essay. So the thesis formula uh, that I've come up with that works very well for a lot of students, but however, it doesn't have to be so formulaic. You can play with it, especially if you feel very confident and you think you know how to write thesis statements. That's fine. This is just used as an aid to help people who do tend to like more definitive things. Okay, so remember, but however, you always have to have an observation, an opinion, and significance. Okay, so here's the thesis formula. By examining the state of X, which is your observation, Y, Y is something, right? Because A, B, and C. So this whole thing, Y is something because A, B, and C, that's the opinion. And this is important because of Z, significance. Now, this kind of is a bit of simplified language. So it's a base, and then later you can make it sound better. You don't have to say by examining the state of X. You can just say like, today taxes are too high, right? And then some kind of opinion on taxes. Taxes should be lower because A, B, and C. This is important because we want people to be able to live life and survive, right? So that's a very simplified version. Um, and really, the formula is just as a base to get you started to see where you're going, and then you can tweak the language. All right, so I have lots of examples here, and you'll notice that they actually are on the four things we talk about. The first thing is education, the second thing is gender as a myth, the third thing is technology, and the fourth thing is the American dream. So you can read these all yourself. I'll just read one of each. So here's an example. By examining the state of student debt in the United States, which is observation, the idea that college ensures financial stability is misleading because tuition costs have skyrocketed, wages have stagnated, and repayment burdens affect long-term economic choices, right? This is important because it challenges the belief that higher education automatically leads to independence and prosperity. All right. So you see, it makes it look a lot better when you have something better to say than just because. But the idea is that this is a complete roadmap to your paper because you're going to explain the because costs are skyrocketing, and you're going to have a body paragraph about that. Wages have stagnated, a body paragraph that with statistics and proof, and repayment burdens affect long-term economic choices, right? So all of those things are going to, you already have where your paper's going. We're going to talk about myth gender is binary. So the first example is examining global cultural misunderstandings of gender. It's observation, right? The assumption that gender is strictly male or female is false because many societies recognize their genders, fluid identities, and non-binary traditions. So that's the opinion. So remember, an opinion can be for or against. In this case, we see that this person believes that gender is not strictly male or female. It's false, right? So this person thinks that. You, of course, are allowed to say the other way. So because remember, you're making a point and arguing it. So it doesn't make sense if you just make a point and everyone agrees with you, right? So that's the thing, is that the opinion is something that other people can argue against. And this person writing this thesis will give all of this evidence to prove their point. So the reader, not just you, the reader will be convinced of their opinion. This is important because it broadens our awareness of human diversity and challenges Western-centric norms. Okay. All right. The next, I want you to read all of them, but I'm just reading some of them. For this one, I'm going to read the second one. By examining recent technological developments, that's the observation there, the belief in automatic progress is questionable because innovations can exploit user data, deepen digital divides, and erode privacy, right? So again, we'll see that can be argued against. Some people might think that technology is great no matter what, and that these things don't matter. This person is going to use proof about how it's exploited, how it makes people divided, and how it erodes privacy, right? So they're going to use all this proof to try to convince you of their point. And then they add the significance. This is important because it shows that progress must be measured by ethics as well as efficiency. And finally, the American dream we'll talk about. Okay, guys. All right. Sorry for that interruption. Let me try that again. So I think I was on this one. By examining personal narratives of low-wage workers, it's the observation. The myth of the American dream is challenged because many people labor tirelessly, yet remain trapped in cycles of poverty, debt, and instability. This is important because it highlights the need to rethink what success means in America. All right. So again, you see that you can argue against that. Some people still believe the American dream is not challenged, and it's fine. All right, so here you have a little bit of practice. For each of these examples, underline the observation, circle the opinion, and put a square over the significance. You notice that I did colors, that's fine. And the reason I did that is because it was easier to do. Yeah, sorry. This was a handout before. This is online class, so I'll fix that. Let's change that. Sorry, just do it right now. Just a second. Okay, let me say that again. Okay, so for this one, you're going to highlight the observation in green, highlight the opinion in purple, and highlight the significance in teal. The first one has been done for you. Okay, so this example is, oh, sorry, let me get that on one page so it's easier for me to explain. Let's see here. The example, the subject is cyberbullying. So you'll see the subject in bold. It's not a part of the thesis. Okay, so here's the observation. With more and more teens using smartphones and social media, cyberbullying is on the rise. Cyberbullying puts a lot of stress on many teens and can cause depression, anxiety, and even suicidal thoughts. Here's the opinion. Parents should limit the usage of smartphones, monitor their children's online activity, and report any cyberbullying to officials, and then the significances in order to combat this problem. Okay, so that you have the rest of those to do, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And so now you can recognize that. Okay, thank you very much. If you have any trouble with the colors, just type on it with parentheses. That's totally fine. Okay, and please check your answers. All right, thank you very much. That's it for this video. Have a great day.